Wednesday, March 13th. In Moscow, the Soviet and Finnish delegations signed the peace agreement. At 11 o'clock in the morning, military activities cease on the different fronts. Marshal Mannerheim sends his soldiers a message of thanks in the name of the Finnish people, who will remember for hundreds of years the bravery and the blood spilt over the territories that the Soviet Union is now usurping. In public places and many homes, Finnish flags are flown at half-mast. Hitler has taken note of the performance of the Red Army, although some of his generals think it has been a ploy by Stalin to deceive possible enemies. In Berlin, there is a distinct feeling of superiority in relation to Russia. For his part, the Soviet leader has been able to see his mistake in choosing army commanders from among inexpert members of the party, after having purged the majority of trained and experienced officers for political reasons. Stalin realizes that the political control of army by the party has to be reduced. Following Finland's capitulation, the Allied governments lose interest in the plans to invade Norway, promoted mainly by Winston Churchill, the First Lord of the Admiralty. But the public in France and Britain call on their governments to adopt a more active role to prevent the dictators taking control of Europe. As a consequence, the French government totters. Thursday, March 14th. In Finland, hundreds of thousands of inhabitants flee the territories occupied by the Soviet Union for areas that remain independent. The forces of the Wehrmacht continue to reinforce selected strategic points on Germany's western borders. However, the French Army High Command does not seem to be taking much note of these developments. Ships of the Kriegsmarine detect the presence of a significant number of British submarines in the North Sea, patrolling from the west of Jutland in Denmark, close to Terschelling in Holland. Donitz sends 8 of his U-boats to the area. In Berlin, Hermann Göring makes an appeal over the radio and in the press for people to donate copper, zinc, lead, brass, and nickel objects. The greatness of Germany and National Socialism depends on it, he says. The Indian Congress approves a resolution establishing the objective of achieving the independence of India. Friday, March 15th. After the signing of the armistice with the Soviet Union, the Finnish Prime Minister Risto Ryti speaks behind closed doors to parliamentarians and the country's president, Kisti Kallio. Western civilization is threatened, and no one knows the future that awaits them. Faced by this tragedy, we have sought the best solution possible at this moment, he states. Allied bombers based in France fly over Warsaw during the night and drop more than 8 million leaflets, calling on the population to resist and promising them early liberation. On their return, one of the planes mistakenly lands on German territory. After chatting to a group of German farmers, and despite the presence of a patrol of state security officers, the British pilots take off again and manage to reach their base without further problems. In the Reich Chancellery, Hitler meets members of the Army High Command to once more go over the plans for the invasion of the West. To carry out the most audacious action of the invasion, 7 Panzer Division under General van Kleist are to be concentrated on the frontier with Luxembourg and Belgium with the task of penetrating the Ardennes forest and crossing the River Mosa between Dinant and Sedan. The spearhead will be formed by the 19th Corps of General Guderian's Panzer Army, whom many call Heinz the Speedy. Saturday, March 16th. German bombers attacked the installations of the British naval base at Scapa Flow, causing damage to the cruiser Norfolk and killing 6 crew members. American Secretary of State Sumner Welles arrives in Rome, the last stage on his tour of Europe, to meet King Victor Emmanuel and the dictator Mussolini. Welles tells them of President Roosevelt's concerns about the situation in Europe, adding that the United States will always favor the Western democracies that are defending their liberties. In Germany, the mayor of Leipzig, Karl Goldeler, General Ludwig Beck, and the diplomat Ulrich von Hassel secretly assess the possibilities of carrying out a coup d'etat to get rid of Hitler and his government before he begins total war against the countries of Western Europe. In France, the banned Communist Party, which has followed an anti-war line since the signing of the Nazi-Soviet Pact, begins to agitate against the government of Édouard Daladier for its attitude in the Soviet-Finnish War. In the Sea War, the Yugoslav merchant ship Slava sinks after colliding with a mine laid by U-29 under the command of Otto Schuhart. Sunday, March 17th. Hitler orders the Third Reich Armaments Agency, subordinate to the Armed Forces High Command, to increase production of war materials in order to achieve the objectives outlined in the armaments program drawn up in December 1939. The agency tells the Nazi leader that the national industry is unable to meet his demands, and the attempts to adapt the economy to total war, as the governor of the central bank, Walter Funk, predicted, will strangle civilian consumption. Hitler decides to separate the organization from the army and names Dr. Fritz Todt Minister for Armaments and Munitions. Todt continues as Inspector General of Roads, Inspector General of the 4-year plan, and Director of the organization which takes his name. This makes him one of the most important men in the Third Reich, with responsibility for millions of workers and the country's whole armaments industry. The Soviets begin to occupy Hanko in accordance with the Russo-Finnish Armistice Agreement. The city was a tourist resort for the Russian nobility until 1917, when it ceased to be a duchy under the Tsar. In the Sea War, U-38, commanded by Heinrich Liebe, sinks the Danish merchant ship Argentina. Monday, March 18th. Hitler and Mussolini meet at the Brenner Pass on the German-Italian border. The Italian leader is willing to join in the war and asks the Führer to delay his Western offensive by a few months. At the decisive hour, Italy will be at your side, he says. Hitler intentionally leads him to believe that he has doubts about beginning a war with the countries of Western Europe, even though he has the largest and best prepared army in the world. On the question of an invasion of Norway and Denmark and his intentions of attacking the Soviet Union in the near future, the Nazi leader remains silent. In London, at a meeting of the War Cabinet, Winston Churchill, First Lord of the Admiralty, proposes Operation Royal Marine, an attack with aircraft carriers to capture the Swedish port of Luleå, from where iron is exported to the Third Reich. He also intends to undertake a series of actions to sabotage and mine the main German rivers, especially the Rhine. Churchill argues that after the bombing of Scapa Flow, the British people suspect the government fears Hitler. They drop bombs on us, and we drop leaflets on them, Churchill says. Prime Minister Chamberlain, under fire, proposes that the occupation of the Swedish port and the mining of the German rivers should happen simultaneously in order to demonstrate that the Allied governments are resolute in their determination to fight against Nazism.